11. Bid night at a sorority is about new beginnings. It's the evening when the pledges, having passed all of their elders' discerning tests, officially accept the invitation to join the elite. And at the rambling Pi Phi house on the corner of Ash Avenue, it was always an ebullient, even triumphal event. The excited new Littles would put on their City of Angels t-shirts. Back in the 1930s, crooners in raccoon coats had sung adoringly about Pi Beta Phi angels, and nearly a century later the seraphic image was still invoked. And then they would head off on the town with their bigs. And as if confirming the complete rightness of all upon which she was now embarking, on bid night, when Maddie joined her new sisters to toast her now official affiliation with the Pi Phis, she met Jake Schreiger. And just like that, another new beginning took hold in her freshman year and shook her young life. Schreiger had also gone to Lake City High in Coeur d'Alene, but he was a couple of grades ahead of Maddie. Their paths had never crossed until now. Jake was good-looking, trim in an athletic sort of way, strong-featured and fair-haired, and he was a Delta Tau Delta. And like all Delts, he had a reputation on campus as a cool guy. By the end of the evening, friends would recall with knowing smiles, Jake was directing his charm straight at Maddie and, just as intently, she was taking it all in. They were two serious young people. In fact, that was, Maddie would tell people, what attracted her to Jake. And their courtship had, at least in its early days, a calm, measured pace. They hung out together, but usually in the protective company of the group of Pi Phis who would regularly gather at Jake's off-campus apartment. Come summer, Maddie would tag along with him on the 4-hour drive down to McCall, Idaho, a picture postcard resort town on the shores of Payette Lake. Jake owned a powerboat, and he'd captained it around the lake as Maddie stretched out on the deck taking in the rays. And all the time they would be talking. Maddie would tell people there was nothing they couldn't talk about. But of course there was one thing, and they both laboriously pretended not to notice its hovering yet unarticulated presence. She knew her worth, Jake with a business major's practicality would put it. I had to work for her, he admitted. Their first official date was Valentine's Day, and they went to the Breakfast Club on Main Street in Moscow. The club's an easygoing, artsy place where students can nurse a strong latte as they sit hunched over their laptops. It's not the most romantic of venues. But by this point in their long-running friendship, both Maddie and Jake had stretched their defenses threadbare, and so when Jake blurted out that he had fallen in love with her, Maddie happily surrendered. Me too, she agreed. And that settled that. They'd cuddle up under a blanket to watch football games or The Princess Bride. They went to country music festivals, and Maddie wore her pink cowgirl boots. And they liked to hug. They were peanut butter and jelly, said Jake's mom. They both knew it would last forever. Kaylee, meanwhile, had also gotten caught up in something that might very well last forever, only the possibility scared the hell out of her. To a young woman who had no inclination to suppress either her keen taste for adventure or her smoldering ambition, forever stretched ahead like a jail sentence. She had met Jake Decor in high school, and he had asked her to the senior prom. Kaylee was ecstatic. Jake was the type of popular big man on campus many girls at Lake City would have been eager to have on their arm. Red-haired and wiry, he was a tennis player, second singles on the Lake City team, and he'd been good enough to earn a place in the North Idaho Athletic Hall of Fame. He also was a juggler, having trained since he was a kid with the Levity Juggling Group in Coeur d'Alene. He could keep a handful of tennis rackets circling simultaneously through the air, or he and a cohort would play a fast-paced game of catch with a torrent of whizzing clubs. It always seemed quite impossible, but he managed to pull it off. Jack went off to the university in Moscow, same as Kaylee, and like his girlfriend, he embraced the Greek life. And Kaylee and Jack were a couple, except when they were not. One day they bought a milk chocolate brown golden doodle, christened him Murphy, and decided he was the cutest thing in the world. The next they'd be fighting over who got custody of the dog. Friends would say they'd each had the misfortune of meeting the right person too soon. As a consequence, a volatile pattern emerged. They'd break up only to soon make up. Then the cycle of resentment and recrimination, followed close on its heels by regret, would start again. Yet for all their defiant talk, neither of them had ever run too far from each other. And as she prepared to head into her senior year, Kaylee found her inevitable way back to her best friend. She decided to join Maddie and two of her friends' Pi-Phi sisters and move into the house on King Road. Not that she planned to be there very long. Her mind was still set on graduating in December. She had sufficient credits, and hand in hand with that decision, Kaylee had also found the will to once and for all end her relationship with Jack. She had played out this entanglement for 5 complicated years, and when she searched her soul, she realized that all it had offered was an excuse not to engage in the larger world that was waiting beyond campus, or, for that matter, Idaho. With this new understanding, she forged an audacious plan. After Christmas, she'd head off backpacking through Europe. Then she'd return to a job at a marketing firm in Austin, Texas. She had already been accepted and would start in February. That, she rejoiced, would be the true start of the next chapter of her life. And so it was that not long after the fall term had begun, she had for all ostensible purposes moved out of the King Road house and returned to Coeur d'Alene. She had found a well-paying job and was building a nest egg. Everything in her new purposefully crafted life was, to Kaylee's delight, falling into place. And now she had a surprise she wanted to share with Maddie. "You have any plans for the weekend of November 12th?" Kaylee asked her best friend. "How about I come down to Moscow?" "It's a football weekend. A lot will be happening. We'll have a great time," Maddie gushed. She was immediately thrilled by the prospect of a reunion, her friends would say. "Awesome," Kaylee agreed. And she teased, "I have something I want to show you."